Hello, Profit Partners. Russell Peden here with this next episode of our Wealth Wednesday Mastermind. So let's jump right into it. I won't waste any time. We're on episode number 5 of Wealth Wednesdays, where money is what you earn, but wealth is what you keep. Just a recap of what we've talked about over the last month or so. We're still working out of our first foundational textbook, which is The Richest Man in Babylon by George S. Clason. If you haven't already got a copy of it, you can get a copy for as little as $4 or $5 on Amazon. You can find it for free online, even an audio version if that's better for you. We talked about the first principle, wealth creation, which is a part of all you earn is yours to keep. This is the foundational principle upon which all wealth is created. So make sure you understand that. The second principle of wealth creation was control your expenditures, because people are like, well, how can I take a portion of what I earn and keep for myself? I can barely live on what I'm earning. So the key is to control your expenditures so that you can make sure that you can at least save 10%, if not more, of what you own for yourself for your wealth creation account. Gave you all kind of great tools to help you do that. The third one principle was make thy gold multiply, which is now that you've got that money set aside to create your wealth, what do you do with it? You need to put it to work so that it earns you a return on your investment, so that your gold, quote unquote, can bring you back more gold as you put it to work for you. And then we talked, that's the last. And so the next one we talked about last week was guard thy treasure from loss, meaning that you want to be sure that you invest in things that are safe, things that you understand. Make sure you consult with people who are smarter than you. It's nothing wrong with reaching out for advice, reaching out to people who are smarter than you, and seeking advice, people who are experienced with whatever investment you're looking to invest in. That otherwise you can end up losing the money that you've worked so hard for and set aside to save for your wealth creation account. So now we're going to move into episode number 5, our 5th principle, and that's to make thy dwelling a profitable investment. You know, George Clason in Richest Man in Babylon, he says basically the 5th principle to the cure for a lean purse is to own your own home. He says, owning your own home makes you feel better. He says, you have a place that you can call your own. I used to call it your own piece of dirt, right? Nothing like owning your own piece of dirt. You know, I grew up, my mom rented our entire life, and one of her main goals in life, one of her dreams, I should say, was to own her own home, her own piece of dirt. She could call her own, plant flowers, whatever she wanted to do, but she never did. And one of my goals was to buy her home and make sure that she was taken care of. But maybe you have that same goal for yourself, to own your own home, so you can have a place for your wife or your spouse to have your kids to play around, and you can do whatever you want to it, make it look however you want to look. And you just feel better. You tend to take better care of things that you own, at least most people do. So he says here, this 5th principle is to make thy dwelling a profitable investment. In other words, own your own home. I'm going to tell you, it's not always possible to own your home. Maybe you live in a very expensive part of the country where owning may not be financially possible for you yet. So just realize that if it doesn't make sense, then you can rent. But don't rent unless it makes sense. What do I mean by that? Well, maybe you've got another plan. Maybe you're going to be planning to move in the next 3 to 5 years. You're going to be relocating. So it may not make sense to buy a home now if you're going to be leaving in 3 to 5 years, because you'll lose money on the money that you spent putting into the house. You need that money to move. And so it may not make sense. Also, you know, in some cases, it make more sense to rent because it's part of your wealth creation plan. Maybe you have this goal of building a kind of a real estate wealth portfolio. So, and you want that first home to be part of that portfolio. So he says, make thy dwelling a profitable investment. So the key is to make it profitable, which means it doesn't have to be a place that you actually live in. You know, if I had to do all over again, I think if my wife and I had to do all over again, we were early on starting our business 28 years ago, we might have, instead of buying that first single family home as our first home for $135,000, if we could have found a duplex or possibly even a fourplex that wasn't much more than what we're going to be spending for that single family home that we bought, our first home, then that might have been a better option for us. Because at the time, it was just the two of us. We didn't have any kids. And at the time, we were really working hard in our business and weren't spending a whole lot of time at home. So it might make more sense for us to maybe spend that same $135,000 and bought a duplex. That way we could live in one of the units and rent the other one out. And typically in a situation like that, the rent from the other unit is typically enough to pay for the entire property. In fact, I just recently was emailed a couple of duplex deals just in the last week or two. Both of them have since sold now. One was 144,000, the other was 152,000. Because you might be saying to yourself, well, that was 28 years ago, Mr. Peden, but I don't know if you can buy a duplex for 135,000. Well, maybe not 135, but certainly 144,000, 152,000. This is just in the last week or two. And both of those instances, the rent on those rental units is $600 or $700 a month, which is more than enough to take care of the mortgage payment on the actual loan for the entire property. So in those situations, it might make more sense in terms of your wealth creation or your wealth growth plan to actually buy a property that you don't that you live in one of the units and rent the other one out. Or maybe you decided, you know what, because I can rent such a nice place, I'm going to use that money that I would have used to buy a house and buy an income property, a rental property that's actually going to basically make my rent payment for me in this nicer rental that I'm living in, or at least pay a large portion of it so that I'm not having to pay so much for it. So anyway, these are all ideas when it comes to this fifth principle: make thy dwelling a profitable investment. The key is to make it profitable. So think about that. Own your own home if you can. Most people should own their own home, I believe, and they should only rent unless it makes sense, or don't rent unless it makes sense. And then focus on making it profitable. You know, most people, when they buy a home, they think your home is an asset. An asset is something that puts money in your pocket, and the home you live in typically takes money out of your pocket, unless, for example, you're going to do it, like I said, maybe a duplex or a fourplex or some investment property that's going to put money in your pocket. So think about that. Anyway, guys, so that's it for today's episode. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed all this. Leave a comment below, share this with your friends, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And for more episodes as we go on this Wealth Wednesday journey going forward. Looking forward to next week's episode. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.